Hello, my name is Maddie Kyle, and I'm a Senior Programs Associate at Best Prep. I work in our eMentors and Cloud Coach program. Thank you so much for being a Best Prep mentor and for wanting to learn and engage further. Your impact as a mentor is great. Research confirms that quality mentoring relationships have powerful positive impacts on young people personally, professionally, and academically. Mentoring connects a young person to personal growth and development and social and economic opportunity. Knowing the positive impact mentors can have on young people, we wanted to offer this training as we believe cultural humility is essential to building healthy, positive, and empowering relationships with your mentees, to developing a mentoring mindset, and ultimately in becoming a great mentor. Best Prep extends a big thank you to the National Mentoring Resource Group in partnering with us to create this training video. By the end of this training, it is our hope that you will understand the concept of cultural humility and its importance in becoming a mentor, that you'll reflect on your own culture and identity and how that impacts how you see and interact with the world around you. We hope you'll be motivated to continue in this type of personal development and grow as a culturally humble mentor. When it comes to cultural humility, it is of utmost value to incorporate self-reflection into the learning process. Therefore, there will be multiple opportunities to pause throughout the training to allow for this. Please have paper and something to write with available. The term cultural humility may be familiar to you already, or perhaps it's brand new. We'll now take some time to define the term and talk about it in the context of mentoring. Cultural humility is the way you approach the relationship. It's a perspective or a stance. It's a humble and respectful attitude toward individuals of other cultures that pushes one to challenge their own cultural biases, realize they cannot possibly know everything about other cultures, and approach learning about other cultures as a lifelong goal and process. Cultural humility also requires self-reflection on one's own practices, assumptions, and biases. As Nikki Giovanna said, if you don't understand yourself, you don't know anyone else. Cultural humility involves curiosity, an openness to learning, and comfort in not having all the right answers. It involves seeking to understand rather than seeking to inform. Brené Brown said, "I'm not here to be right, I'm here to get it right." Cultural humility necessitates valuing other perspectives, experiences, and beliefs, and it also involves understanding the role of power and privilege in our relationships with others. It's important to recognize that power and privilege we have as adults in regards to our knowledge, skills, and access to resources, and to reflect on the impact this power can have in our interactions with youth. Finally, cultural humility involves seeing the other person as the expert on their own life and experience. In mentoring, it's the perspective that both mentors and students are co-learners in the experience, and both have much to offer each other. Best Prep partnered with Search Institute to work on our curriculum, and they say interaction in a developmental relationship is bidirectional, with each person contributing to and benefiting from the relationship. Please note that cultural humility is not just about awareness or knowledge, rather it's an approach or a mindset that mentors take on that facilitates effective, safe, and meaningful engagement with their student. Now we'll hear from a student on why he thinks it's important for mentors to have cultural humility and the kinds of qualities his best mentors have had.
My name is Aryan Tomar, and I've been involved with Best Prep for the last 3 years with the Minnesota Business Venture. It is extremely important for a mentor to be culturally humble, and it can only improve the quality of your work. Without cultural humility, there's a significant chance that you may invalidate your mentee's experience or fail to establish a meaningful connection. This is detrimental for a lot of reasons, but namely if your mentee feels like they can't really relate to you or that you don't know their struggles, it creates tension that can be uncomfortable in the relationship and may close off the mentee from whatever you're offering. And that's the opposite of what we'd all want. As a person of color, I've found that the best mentors have been culturally competent, humble, and open. This contributed to creating a safe space where I felt comfortable being vulnerable and honest with them. And on top of that, it's also very inspiring to see an adult that holds an important place in my life committing to a life full of growth and reflection. So, as a mentee, it makes me feel like I can do that as well. And it's inspiring because it shows me that there are adults in my life who are committed to a life full of growth and a commitment to cultural humility, which is super, super important moving to the future.
As Aryan mentioned, not having and practicing cultural humility has negative effects on the student-mentor relationship. Additional risks of not approaching the relationship with cultural humility are: you may miss a big part of who your student is. You may be more likely to show disrespect or insult your student. You may miss an opportunity for your own learning and development. And finally, you may also miss an opportunity to deepen your relationship and fully support your student. Please keep in mind that cultural humility does not have a finish line or a graduation, but more is about being committed and actively engaged in a lifelong process with ourselves, other individuals, communities, and colleagues. Now that we've learned a little bit about the concept of cultural humility, let's take a few minutes to reflect. The diagram on the left shows some of the components of cultural humility, and the top right box sums up all the components of cultural humility we've touched on today. What sticks out about this concept? What are the elements of cultural humility that you feel you're already doing well or are intentional about? What are the aspects of cultural humility that will be more challenging for you or will require more intentionality? How might this approach transform your relationship with others and your understanding of yourself? Please pause the video now to reflect. Thank you for taking the time to pause. It's essential when taking on a mentoring mindset and developing cultural humility to first become aware of your culture and how it's affected you. Otherwise, it may be more difficult to understand the ways culture may affect someone else or why it might be important to them. Also, if you understand how discrimination or privilege has affected you, then you may be more aware of how those things impact others. Finally, if you are comfortable talking about your own culture and experience, then you will become better at listening to others talk about theirs. Imagine if you're wearing a pair of glasses. These glasses are the lenses that have been formed over time by your experiences, your identities, and your culture. Essentially, these are what have played into forming the unique lens through which you see the world. Some examples might include your race, ethnicity, social class, occupation, education, gender identity, military involvement, sexual orientation, marital status, generation, geography, nationality, religion, or other. Please set a 2-minute timer and pause the video now to write down as many aspects of your identity and culture as you can think of. Now that you've written down as many descriptors of your identities as you could, look at the list you've created while contemplating the following questions. What do you notice about the list you came up with? What are the dimensions of your identity that most impact how you see or experience the world on a daily basis? Why is it helpful to identify and reflect on your own unique lens? How might this reflection impact your ability to build relationships with others, including your mentee? Please pause the video now. Thank you for taking the time to do this reflection activity. There are many ways to build self-awareness into your own experiences and lenses through which you see the world, and we encourage you to continue to do this type of reflection as you engage in the mentoring experience. Next, we'll show a clip from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's TED Talk, Danger of a Single Story. We will show a brief segment here, but we strongly encourage you to view the video in its entirety as well. We've posted it on the Mentor Hub. It's very powerful.
All of these stories make me who I am. But to insist on only these negative stories is to flatten my experience and to overlook the many other stories that formed me. The single story creates stereotypes, and the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. Of course, Africa is a continent full of catastrophes, the immense ones, such as the horrific rapes in Congo, and depressing ones, such as the fact that 5,000 people apply for one job vacancy in Nigeria. But there are other stories that are not about catastrophe, and it is very important, it is just as important to talk about them. I've always felt that it is impossible to engage properly with a place or a person without engaging with all of the stories of that place and that person. The consequence of the single story is this: it robs people of dignity. It makes our recognition of our equal humanity difficult. It emphasizes how we are different rather than how we are similar.
Let's reflect on this quote from Chimamanda for a moment. The single story creates stereotypes, and the problems with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. Adichie helps us recognize the importance of moving past a single story and seeing a more complete and unbiased picture of who the other person is. When we do that, we are much more likely to build connections across difference. However, this can be difficult. You might be asking at this point, well, how do we support young people now, even if their experiences differ from our own? Here's one recent and relevant example from a student who participated in Mentor's Black Youth Town Hall. In this video, Anaya mentions adults can best support youth by joining, not suffocating, collaborating, and sharing power with them. She was responding to a question about how adults can support youth in navigating individual and systemic cases of racism, but what she shares also applies to adults supporting youth in general.
I really had to think about what exactly does it mean to help us, because I know a lot of times adults naturally they try to help and guide, but will accidentally suffocate us or try to take control, take the lead, be in front. And the relationship that me and my mentor have has really taught me that collaboration is very important and sharing power is even more. I think it's very important that adults and elders right now, our mentors, guide us, but don't suffocate us, and join us as we are going through this. Support us. You know, if I know for example, my grandmother, she's very aware that that I'm very passionate about this. And I'm supposed to be organizing a protest here in Houston, Texas for June 20th. And, you know, her first instinct was, I don't know about that. I don't think that's safe. I don't think you're going to do that. You know, like her first instinct was, no, you're not doing it. But the truth of the matter is I'm doing it, you know, but I feel like her immediate concern was her way of helping, you know, immediately telling me no, because she's trying to protect me. I feel like a lot of adults are trying to protect us right now, but, you know, in this time in the world, it's really not time to be convenient. You know, protecting is important, but we need to be standing alongside one another. So the collaboration and sharing power with one another is very important to think about. When we're talking about tackling systematic racism and also tackling oppression that has been happening for over 400 years. You know, it's not the time to say that an adult can do it, but a kid can't, or a kid can't, but an adult can't. You know, we're on this line together. We're facing the same thing. We're dealing with the same things.
Please take a minute to pause and reflect on the following questions. How would seeing others, including youth, as an expert on their own life and experiences change the way you provide support? And what are ways you can collaborate and share power in your relationship with your mentee? In addition to the ways Anaya shared with us, here are more ways to support your student and connect across difference. Listen, listen, listen. This is so important in showing your student that you truly care about them and want to know them. Ask questions. We encourage you to ask at least one question every time you write a response to your student, but we encourage you to ask even more. This really shows that you're curious about them, you want to know them more, and you really care. Share your experiences and struggles. Show your vulnerability. Show that you are also a human being, and provide ways that the student could possibly relate to you. Look for strengths and assets in your student. Point these out. Encourage and nurture these strengths in your student. Research. One mentor I worked with last year took it upon herself to look into the school's website where her student attended and to look up all the clubs and orgs that fit with her student's strengths. And she asked the student, you know, have you considered this club or this activity? You know, would you be interested in getting involved? And that just showed the student that they went above and beyond to know the student and research about, you know, what's going on in their life. Have difficult conversations, use empathy and compassion, seek the other person's perspective. This is tying into asking questions. Practice patience. Don't judge just because your student does something differently than you do or does something in a different way. Doesn't mean it's wrong, just means that it's different. check assumptions and biases, and continue to process as you go throughout this process, and apologize when you make a mistake. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time to learn and reflect. We hope you're walking away from this training with a better understanding of cultural humility and its importance in becoming a mentor. We hope you see more of how your own culture and identity impacts how you see and interact with the world around you. And we hope you're motivated to continue this type of personal development and grow as a culturally humble mentor. As we've talked about, cultural humility is a process, not an endpoint. To assist with further learning and development, we strongly encourage you to check out the Additional Resources tab on the Mentor Hub. There's a wide variety of videos, articles, and book suggestions surrounding this topic. Thank you to Carolyn Shear for the Mentoring National Resource Center for her expertise and guidance in the creation of this video. Best Prep would also like to recognize the National Mentoring Resource Center and the Office of Juvenile Justice for the support and funding that helped make this training possible. Please feel free to reach out to your Best Prep coordinator with any questions about this training, how to best support your student, respond to a message you've received, or with other resources related to cultural humility that have been helpful for you in your personal development journey. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great day.